today, when is a silver bullet not a silver bullet? Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics, working latest posts covering finance and property news with a distinctively Australian flavour. So today I'm joined by Peter from Business Crew. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Martin. Thank you for having me on board.
Now, it's great to have you with us. And you reached out for me to basically share some of your perspectives. Now, you're a business consultant and you work with businesses a lot, right? So
Yes.
I think there's a really important conversation to be had, because before the virus came along, businesses in Australia, small businesses and medium businesses, were already under the pump, rather, weren't they? And then the virus came on top. So what's your read in terms of the business health of normal businesses, not the big end of town, but the normal businesses at the moment?
Well, a couple of years ago, through my analysis of the economic climate, and I do have an economics background, there were a number of indicators telling me that there was going to be an economic slowdown, just a cyclical one. It happens from time to time, and Europe was had bad issues, debts and so forth. America, basket case. Australia had problems as well. People were really stretched. It just seemed like there was just going to be an economic downturn. In fact, on my Business Crew channel, I created about a 7-series podcast, which was titled Financial Crisis Ahead, warning people, look, be careful, be conservative, be frugal, there's going to be an economic crisis. This is a couple of years ago. Now, look, I certainly never predicted COVID-19. But what has now happened, that has just eclipsed all my worst nightmares. So already when businesses were stretched through high wages, through high rentals, a decrease in amount of spending again because people have been stretched and so forth. Now that the virus has hit, and then many businesses have actually been forced to close down, it is bad. It is really bad. It is really bad. Some people may say, "Oh, look, but the government has been very supportive. The government has been providing grants. The government has JobKeeper and a grant for this and a deduction for that and tax rebates and incentives." Whilst all this is true, people who are in business, particularly those who have premises, know how costly every single day is.
And it's worth saying, Peter, isn't it? If you think about it, and I walk around the Wollongong area, we've seen lots of premises closed down, a lot of retail gone out of business, a lot of the hospitality, restaurants, wherever you look. And a lot of that is to do with business rates and rentals, because it's pretty costly to own premises.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And in effect, it is an economic crisis that we had to have, I guess, because certainly we are going to be seeing house prices falling. We are going to be seeing rentals falling. We're already seeing that now with vacancies. So this is something that really had to happen, whether it was going to happen organically or induced through this. So there is a positive to this, but what I think a lot of people are concerned about is, what do we do? And I believe that the silver bullet, which is going to be the vaccine, I think that is going to lead to a lot of disappointments. And I think that people need to really consider the situation, not to be too positive, but to be very, very cautious, because I believe that we will be hearing sooner rather than later issues popping up with the vaccine, whether it's one type of vaccine or another, where the results aren't as positive, or the results are worse than they had been expected. Side effects, long-term effects. Look, I obviously don't know what they're going to be now, but I'm pretty sure that something negative is going to happen, and then all of a sudden they're going to think, "Oh my goodness, the vaccine's not working," or what do we do? And that's the thing. There is really not much else that they can do, because the ace that all the countries have been holding is the vaccine. Once everyone gets vaccinated, people can travel, businesses can open up, we're going to live a COVID normal. And I think that's going to be very, very disappointing.
Right, and it's interesting because if you listen to Boris Johnson in the UK, I was listening to him overnight. He basically said, we've got to go through this difficult pace, but we're now doing the vaccine. We're rolling out very quickly, so there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Right now, the question is, how well will that light come through? And we know a few things. We know that there are a number of variants in terms of the virus. We know that there have been some pockets where people have actually died post the vaccine, Norway as an example. And I guess the other point is that if you are a government or a business who basically is holding out that the silver bullet is going to be the vaccine, you should also be asking the question, yes, but what if that doesn't come through? What's our plan B? And the question is, do we have a plan B? What do you think, Peter? Do we have a plan B?
Well, certainly not an official one, that's for sure. And there are two very important things, Martin, that we also do know about the vaccine or about the virus. We know that the virus, COVID, is part of the coronavirus, which was first discovered in 1935. So this virus has actually been known by scientists, by doctors, since 1935. There has been no vaccine ever developed against this virus since 1935. That's over 85 years. Second, even though there's a lot of resources, a lot of money, a lot of pressure, a lot of incentives thrown at this virus, the other thing that we do know is that the world record in getting a vaccine created from scratch was for the Ebola virus. That took 5 years. Now, at the moment, we are pretty much coming to the first full year of coronavirus being around. With that information, with those facts, how confident are you that we are going to annihilate the world record speed in creating a really good vaccine?
Right, but to be fair, Peter, there has never been so many resources, so much money, and so much time thrown into vaccine creation as we've had this time around. So in a way, are we comparing apples with pears, I guess is the question.
Look, yes, because whilst you need to take that into account, like I said, 85 years there's been no vaccine, and Ebola virus they took that pretty seriously, and that took 5 years. So whilst, look, I agree with you, okay, and that is certainly going to work in its favour. Again, I'm looking on the balance of probabilities, and all I'm saying is that everyone's hung up on vaccine. This is going to save us. All I'm saying is that it's not quite that simple, and I wouldn't be so confident. That's my only concern. And as a result, if it comes through according to plan, great, we've lost nothing. But if it doesn't, and if people are now getting their confidence up and thinking, oh, well, we can buy property, or we can lease some premises because we're just around the corner anyway, everything's picking up, prices have come down a little bit. Once the vaccine, everything's going to be great again. People are going to be spending. I'm going to take advantage of these bargain prices. You could be grabbing a falling knife.
So the question, I guess, is twofold. Firstly, if you look at the latest data from Roy Morgan, came out today, business confidence was sky high, a massive spike up, right? And I guess that's because of the vaccine. So there is a significant improve in business confidence relative to previously. But then the other question is, if that translates into momentum much lower than people expected, then businesses are going to be significantly more under pressure for longer. So what do you think that plan B would look like? What needs to be done? What would need to be done by government, and what would need to be done by business?
That's a good question, Martin, and unfortunately I don't have a good answer as that question, because the government has pretty much spent a lot of money. In fact, we're going to be over $1 trillion in debt. Each state has had an absolute blowout in its deficits. you hear from business owners themselves that they cannot psychologically or financially withstand another closure of the economy. Look, this is a virus. It knows no boundaries. It doesn't have a political affiliation. Look, I don't even see an end game apart from the vaccine. I just don't see. This virus can pop up at any time. It just takes one person. Now, whilst we're enclosed and all of our international borders are closed, and even with that, even under this such hygienic conditions like a bubble, the viruses are still popping up now and then. Now, but in terms of Australia's going to be hit particularly hard because one of our main sources of income is overseas students, which we need, and tourism. These are Australia's core competencies. It just so happens that these things are completely knocked out. So it's in the government's interest, it's in our interest, it's in our economic interest to get the borders open as soon as possible. But you won't be able to control the virus. It's just not going to be possible.
So it's interesting that New Zealand, of course, has managed to pretty much eradicate the virus from within New Zealand, but they've done it by very tight borders. And they're basically now saying, well, our local economy is not too bad, but they're also recognizing that what you just said, which is that tourism and the education sector are both being hit very hard. And they've also said, it's going to be very difficult to bring the economy back full bore until such time as the virus is controlled in many other countries too. So it's not just a question of what we do here in Australia, it's also a question of what happens in other countries around the world. Because, as you say, if you do actually open the borders too soon, you're going to let the thing back in, and once it's in, it'll create another series of lockdowns again. So we are on a bit of a precipice. I think that the enthusiasm in the media is quite interesting, right? Everyone's talking about the vaccine's coming, everything will be fine. Remember that we don't start the vaccine rollout until February, March time, and the experience around the world is it takes quite a bit of time to get the vaccine, through the population. And also, it's worth noting that there's no known proof yet whether the vaccine will actually stop spread or whether it will simply stop infection.
There are a lot of unknowns with this vaccine.
Yeah. So there's a lot of unknowns. So there's a few things we can say then. Firstly, we know for sure that the borders will stay shut for probably longer. And in fact, a few people are now saying this year that don't expect them to be open. There's a very senior health guy the other day saying borders will be shut for this year. That was a surprise to many businesses, and so the tourist sector grizzled and said, we need more help then. So I think that there is a reality check required here, and what I think you're doing is that, right? Which is to say, look, just to be clear, you can't put all of your eggs in the vaccine virus control basket because it may not be as effective. And if it isn't effective, we've got no plan B, and that's a problem.
Look, just consider these facts that I have mentioned, which you won't see watching Dancing with the Stars or even on the news. You're not going to see that stuff. But these are all facts, and we are heading into something very, very, very scary. And just be conservative. If you are working a day job, I would highly, again, maybe I'm biased here, I would highly recommend moving into a business, not one where you're renting premises, ideally something that you can run from home, because you need to become independent in terms of your ability to earn money. We saw what happened in March. As soon as the businesses were closed down, you had huge lines going towards Social Security. An employee means nothing. There is no job security anymore. If businesses are going to go down or if businesses are struggling, they're going to look after their husband, wife, family first, and the employee, as much as they will love you, you have really no say in any of this.
Right, but don't you think most people would say, sure, if we get another wave of virus, if we get more infection, we have to lock down again, then the government will just throw more money at it. They'll extend JobKeeper and JobSeeker, and we'll just go into more debt, but interest rates are so low, so that's fine. So in a way, is that the plan B, do you think?
Well, again, JobKeeper and JobSeeker, they sound good, but ultimately you're not being thrown thousands of dollars per week. You're being thrown literally a few $100, like $500, $600 per week, which is it's certainly better than nothing. But it's not that's what I'm saying. People look at it and think, oh, well, the government's throwing all this money. Yeah, if you throw all that money amongst the whole population, that equates to billions and billions of dollars. But per individual person, a guy who owned a restaurant, he could have been earning $3,000 or $4,000 a week.
Yep.
Even their staff members who worked overtime, who worked Fridays and Saturdays, maybe they were pulling in $1,500 a week with tips, with other things. And now, if they're going to be getting $600 or $700 per week through JobKeeper or JobSeeker, again, that's halving your wage.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And I guess it's also worth underscoring that a lot of the smaller businesses really didn't get the help from JobKeeper and JobSeeker that some of the big end of town did. And certainly in my surveys, I'm still seeing a lot of businesses that are really close to the wall. And,
including mine.
Yeah. And
no, not the business consulting, because I also I've got a tourism business as well.
Yeah.
So I've had one tour in the last 7 months. That was in December. Now, thankfully, I've got a number of businesses, and what I do, I have shifted, moved away. I accepted that actually my tours of Melbourne and Sydney are going to go down. So that's no surprise for me once a few months pass. So now I have shifted over to the supply of Australian souvenirs. So I've sort of moved.
Yeah. Well, you've got to be agile, right? That's the whole point. That's
what I'm saying.
Yeah. And
if you're in business, you've got the wiggle room. You can sort of move. But if you're an employee, if I had employees, I'd say, look, sorry. If I had drivers or chauffeurs, whatever, it'd be see you later, because at the end of the day, we're all going to go down. You know what I mean? But as a business owner, I'm thinking, well, okay, this avenue's not working anymore, but I'm going to try this one. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to try another, but I'm still around.
Yeah, well, survival is part of the strategy, I guess. Peter, I really appreciate your time today, and I think that warning is very important, that people, don't take all of the positive news just in isolation, balance it with some of the other stuff. We hope that the vaccine will be successful. We hope that the economy will come out, but there are a few hurdles to cross, a few bridges to cross. And until that time, you've got to be a little bit cautious. And I think small businesses in particular are definitely going to struggle ahead, and there's some caution there required. And I appreciate your time today. And, I think the message is quite clear. Be cautious, be a little bit careful just at the moment, because things are a little uncertain. Thanks for your time today. And this is Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics signing off. We'll see you next time.